Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. And in today's video, I'm going to be doing a product review and test of the Gasland Chef Induction Countertop Burner. It is a model IH602BTA. As always with all my videos on product reviews, for full disclosure, Gasland did reach out to me if I would be interested in reviewing their product, and I said yes, and in exchange I get to keep the unit. But what we are going to do is we're going to put it through its paces, we're going to test it, see what the different features are. My wife is even going to be helping me here behind the camera as we do the unboxing and also to really just check it out. This is a 120 volt unit, so you can put it pretty much anywhere here in your house if you live in the United States. It does not have to be hardwired in. We figure we can put it right here on our kitchen island or somewhere else here. We have a bunch of counter space. We actually have just your standard stove here that's got the electric element cooktop with the glass top on it. And while that's great, we are really interested and excited we've never had an induction cooktop before. And that being portable, we could either put it here or I can even put it outside. You can't really see it out back there, but I have a bunch of grills. I love to grill. I'm also into meat smoking, and to have two burner tops here to be able to put it here on either the counter or outside if I'm heating up something, that would just add to the flair and being able to cook more stuff when we have a lot of people over. So let's go ahead and take the unit out of the box and see what we got. So here in the box we have the unit itself. It's got the power cord, and as I mentioned, this is a 120 volt unit. It's got the larger blade on one side and the thinner blade on the other. Now, you also get the instruction manual, of course, and then you also get this little magnet. And this is important because any of your cookware, pots and pans, needs to have ferrous material in it. In other words, this magnet needs to be able to stick to the pot or pan that you are using in order for this induction cooktop to work properly. If it doesn't stick, then nothing's going to happen. There's no ferrous material to induce a current in order to heat up your food. So that's why they give you this magnet. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that in the instructions, it says that between the two burners that you have the maximum wattage of 1800 watts that this can put out. Now, what that means is that if you have a 15 amp breaker that you plug this into, and it has to be dedicated, this is the only device that should be plugged into that branch circuit in your house. You are only going to be able to draw safely 1450 watts roughly. By code. You could go a little bit more, but because this has a max wattage of 1800 watts continuous when you are using both burners, I would highly recommend using a 20 amp breaker so that it doesn't trip or you cause a potentially dangerous situation by overloading your circuit breaker. And that, thankfully, we have a 20 amp dedicated breaker built into the counter island here. And let's go ahead and find a pot or pan that has some ferrous material in it, and we'll just boil some water and we'll see how it works. All right, we got this plugged in. It has the two burner controls here, and it's all touchscreen, which is really cool. Now, I did find that this is got a tri-ply bottom. All right, so we now know that that works the way we want it to. Let's put it on the burner. Just going to boil some water and see how that works. All right, we just got a little bit of water here. Now, the interesting thing is that you have two options. When you turn this on, you can either plus or minus for the amount of wattage. So the wattage could be as low as 200 watts all the way up to 1200 watts. If you press the booster function, then it puts a full 1500 watts on the single burner to get your food up to temperature. You could also go a different way. Instead of it measured in wattage, you can set the temperature from anywhere from, I believe, 140 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to 460 degrees Fahrenheit with the proper it just beeped at me, with the proper cookware that is designed for that. But what we'll do is let's just go ahead and turn it on. We're just going to, I don't want to do 1000 watts. Let's say I do, well, see, I won't let you go more than 1200 watts. It's got a fan built in. And it should, well, let's see what we can do with the booster. You hear the buzzing, but I would imagine that this would start to heat up pretty quickly. I don't want to get the camera too close, but already at 1500 watts, I'm seeing bubbles, and it's already getting pretty warm. So this definitely has the ability to cook things very quickly. All right, it's only been about a minute, and this thing is almost ready to start boiling over. That's actually really impressive how quickly it will go and start boiling water. But the cool thing is I can shut this off, move this over, and I feel a little bit of heat, but the efficiency of an induction cooktop is that all the heat goes into your food. So that's pretty cool. Here we are tonight. My wife's behind the camera, and we're going to be making some lasagna tonight, and we're going to boil the noodles here on one of the cooktops, and then we're going to be cooking some onions in the other. What we need to do is get this up to a boil, and there are two settings from what I understand. When you turn it on, you either have the wattage from 200 to 1200 watts, with the booster function up to 1500 watts if you're only using one burner. There is a temperature function I want to check out here. So if I do temperature, we want to get it up to a boil, or just under a boil here. We can set it to 210 degrees Fahrenheit, and this should start to cook and get it up to a boil. I don't know how long that's going to take exactly, but looks like we are well on our way, because if you can get the camera in here a little bit, you could see the heat, because this is a ferrous pot here. You could see the heat is starting to build up in the water already. Now if I go and hit the booster, this will actually go and put a full 1500 watts in to get the water up to a boil even faster. So we'll let this run for a few minutes, and we'll see how well this boils the water. I'm going to start cooking the onions here, and I'm also just going to try a little bit. Honey, you going to kiss me after I try some of this?
It's debatable.
It's good. Now we're going to put this on low heat. And mind you, my wife is the best person in the kitchen as far as cooking. I am only going by the instructions that she tells me.
So we're living dangerously, folks.
Pretty much. So now that this is on the booster function, I want to turn this on low heat. I'm going to turn this on. You're going to be limited to how many watts you can actually draw. So I'm only going to do, say, 400 watts. Can I leave this straight like that, honey? Mm-hmm. All right. So 400 watts should be okay to get started. We get that right in the middle. Hopefully that'll start to cook here momentarily. But it's only been, since the last segment, it's only been maybe about 3 minutes, and you can already see that it's already warming up pretty quickly. And because I'm using the other burner, it's taken the booster function off. I can't use the booster function, so this is maxed out at 1200 watts here. I can't use the booster because both of them are being used. If I shut this off, then I'd be able to draw more. But that's still pretty good, considering how much this is a total of 1800 watts that you can draw. See, there's your 1000, and then there's your 800. But we don't want it to cook that quickly, so we'll put a little bit more power to getting this water boiling here. We'll come back to you in a minute. Alright, well, we're not going to win any speed records getting it up to a boil, but once it does get to a boil, it will hold it and maintain it. Now that it's up to a boil, how long do I put the lasagna noodles in for?
8 minutes.
Okay, so I'm going to take the noodles. I'm going to shut off the booster function. We'll bring it down to 1200 watts. Alright. Just leave them in like that. Alright, now we want to set the timer. Let me get a quick zoom in on that. So I'm setting the timer for 8 minutes, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, since the onions are already cooked, let's just blast this up to 1500 watts. Alright, so we're at 1500 watts and timer for 8 minutes. That should be good. Alright, I'm double handing it here, but I actually had to bring the wattage down to 1200 watts because it's actually holding a boil pretty good. And now I just need to make sure that I spread these out so it does not stick. Here's another update. So now that the noodles are cooked, we're just keeping it on simmer at 200 watts. I started this off at 1500 watts and it was cooking extremely quickly to brown the meat and the onions. So I brought it down to about 800 watts. It's cooking quite quickly. Something we're not usually used to because we have the electric stove to go and cook everything. And so far it's been working great. It looks great. Alright, well, we just browned the meat, and my wife is going and putting the noodles together. The cool thing that I noticed too, I don't know if you noticed, honey, was that when we're cooking on the surface, we don't get the hot spots like we do if it was on top of the stove here, where some of the noodles would actually go and burn and get stuck to the bottom. We're not getting that with the induction cooktop, so that's definitely a plus. Alright, we've taken this off the cooktop, and now we're putting together the lasagna. And it looks really, really good. My wife is going to go put some mozzarella cheese as the first layer. And then we're going to put one more layer. And then it'll go into the oven for about 30 minutes. But we're pretty much done using the cooktop. We shut everything down. And I know the glare is a little bit. And if it looks like it's flickering on the camera, it's not doing that to the naked eye. That's just the frame rate of the camera. But this has been a very handy tool. Very happy with the performance. And the final step, after 2 layers of cheese and noodles and all kinds of deliciousness at 350 degrees, we'll cover this up with some foil, pop it in the oven for 30 minutes, and it's bon appetit. Well, guys, that's it. To sum up our thoughts, my wife and I really do like this cooktop, and probably the biggest difference between the last time we cooked lasagna on our electric cooktop stove there versus the induction was that the noodles did not stick to the bottom. Because typically what happens with an electric element is that you get a hot spot right where the pan is directly contacting the top of the cooktop here. And that creates a hot spot because as the pan heats up, it tends to warp a little bit. You'd get a little bit of a gap, and it doesn't contact the surface as well. So you get more of a hot spot on one area of the pan versus the other. You don't get that with an induction cooktop because it's using all the metal on the pan to cook your food. So that's definitely an advantage. Be very curious as the weather gets warmer that we can take this cooktop out and we can go out to the back here where we have our grills and we have a table out there where we can set that up. We have an outlet right on the outside of the deck there, and we can likely use it out there as well. I hope this has been very helpful, and thank you so much to Gasland for reaching out to us. We really enjoyed using the product, and we hope that you guys enjoy it as well. Definitely gives our thumbs up approval. And if there's any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. And thank you so much for supporting the channel, and we'll see you guys on the next product review.